What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Collider Interview Studio, Fantastic Fest 2024. I am so excited to be sitting with the team behind A Different Man. I will just start by saying exceptional work. I feel like the way the story is structured, it is an incredibly ambitious thing to pull off, and the way you weave from one section to the next is exceptional. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will also warn our viewers, we are going to open this conversation up to A Different Man spoilers. So if you have not seen the film, here's where you pause the video, you go out and watch the movie because you should, and then you come right back here and push play and enjoy the conversation. So I am going to start in non-spoiler territory. Aaron, I wanted to give you my first question here because we are at Fantastic Fest right now. It is a genre film festival. So I am curious, why did genre storytelling feel like the best way for you to explore the themes and ideas you wanted to in A Different Man?
I don't know that I ever considered it strictly in the genre realm, although all my films have played at genre festivals, and my last film played at this festival and played quite well. I thought it was one of our best screenings. So I'm very comfortable in this genre, but I don't know, to me, some people consider it a dark comedy, and there's certainly body horror elements. So, I think it's many different things.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's what keeps it exciting and fresh and something unique. Adam, for you, I was watching another interview where it was mentioned that this is the very first time that Aaron has written a role specifically for a particular actor. So I am curious, what was your reaction to finding out he did that? And does it create more pressure when you know something was designed for you?
Well, it's always an honor and a privilege to have something written for you. And the fact that it's written by someone who I just thoroughly love and respect as a writer, director, and human is the cherry on the proverbial cake. And yeah, like a lot of pressure, because I'm like, okay, I saw him with Change for Life that I could act, and he's properly called my bluff on this one. So now I've got to learn by doing it on the job. And luckily I had the human highlight reel that is Sebastian Stan to sort of bounce off and go with. So
going round and round.
I love it. All right, Sebastian, for you, I mentioned this when we were slating before, but you're a producer on this movie, and that's a very big deal. And I believe this is your first film producing credit, right?
Yeah, it is.
What was it about the material that made you think you could best support it by being a lead actor in the movie and also as a producer?
Well, I don't, it sort of kind of happened because everything was happening very quickly. And I met Aaron and Vanessa, who's a producer on the film as well, his wife, and fairly early in the process. And then, I was lucky and fortunate of being sort of included in some of the discussions along with them and Christine Vachon about where's the best place for this, when should we do it, how do we do it, and then fortunately, we met with A24. They were the only meeting we had, and they really were excited about it. They loved Change for Life, and then we sort of got going. But in terms of your question, I guess because it was such a quick shoot of 22 days and time was of the essence, sometimes, and if you're in the film, it helps a little bit to kind of, you're part of the conversation, perhaps behind the scenes a little bit more. And then when you do need to kind of pull some strings in the sense of, maybe we keep shooting, I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter what day, what hour you start shooting the next day, you can help with that a little bit, and that happened here a bit. So
a little bit of a big question about maybe producing more going forward. Is there anything that you wished more sets had as an actor earlier on in your career that you will strive to bring to them as a producer going forward?
I think you're always hoping to be on a set where the creative is a priority and is just as important as everything else, but it's not always the case. And again, I want to go back to A24 with that, because they really did prioritize the creative, and we did feel that, I felt like Aaron had the sort of the time and space to sort of prioritize that, and that doesn't happen very often. So maybe as a producer, if you're also in it, you can kind of help make sure that we're all on the same page about that.
A24 always prioritizes the creative, and that's what keeps me coming back for more. I am going to toss this to the two of you now as part of the ensemble here, but it really does feel like a movie that does not work without a pitch perfect lead trio, and I very much think you found that in the two of them, and also Renate. So for the two of you, do you remember the very first moment, either in prep or on set, when you stopped, looked around at each other, and said, like, this feels right, we are the right team for this?
Oh, was there a moment? Because I know we had a lot of Zoom meetings like really early on to discuss the whole thing and sort of like the method and the effect and whatnot. But I think to me it all felt really good that first day. We all met at the theatre and read through a few bits and pieces. I was like, straight away I felt really comfortable and was like, yeah, I'm in good hands here.
I really wish I could remember what Aaron said that first day of rehearsal in the first theater that we used, because you kind of gave like it was a very encouraging, rallying kind of like speech about, okay, we're gonna go into this. This is this is the text, but you feel free to kind of bring what you need to bring it. This is what I know. This is what I don't know. And I remember in that moment kind of feeling like, okay, this is going to definitely be really special because everybody wants this to turn out great, but we're all speaking the same language.
Do you remember much about that speech and what you wanted to share with your team in order to see this through to the finish line well?
I don't remember what I said during the speech, but I do remember that first rehearsal and feeling very emboldened by this cast that we assembled. So, and yeah, I think I said something about, how I know what the characters do and say in the script, but other than that, I don't know anything. And so I sort of let them come up with what they're thinking and what their backstories are, or whether they wanted to do that or not do that. I sort of stay out of that unless they want something from me in that regard.
That answer is making me think of this question that I love asking, because I feel like more often than not, folks in this industry phrase this idea like, what does a director bring out of an actor? And I do think that's applicable, but I also think a lot of that happens in the reverse as well. So what is something about the three of them that brought something new out of you as a director?
Oh, all sorts of things. And as a director, I think one of my jobs is to react to what I'm seeing and to, I think putting the pieces in place and then, just encouraging what's working and maybe discouraging if something isn't working. But, I think with Sebastian, for instance, we shot much of the film out of order, and there's two halves to this movie in a sense. So I couldn't always track the way that Sebastian was building this character because it would go at the end and then at the beginning again, and so sometimes I would move him in a direction that. When I looked back at the footage, I'd say, "Oh, he was right the first time." So once we put it in order, he was doing things that I couldn't quite see when we were just doing it sort of piecemeal in a sense.
All right, before I get too hard with the ending right now, I did want to tease your characters a little more. Sebastian, I'll come to you first. It's a particular quote where I think I saw it in the press notes. You said on an emotional level, this was very new territory for me. So going into filming, what particular scene did you think would be most emotionally challenging for you? And ultimately, was it, or did a different one catch you by surprise?
Oh, many caught me by surprise in this. I think the whole theater sequence towards the end was definitely a scary one. Sometimes you highlight a day of filming on a calendar and you kind of stare at it every day as you get closer, and that was one of them. But I was always really concerned with that transition in the middle of the film where Edward sort of goes through the changes that he goes, and hoping that we were going to have enough there to make that bridge into the second half so that we could carry the audience and they would still feel like when he walks into that bar that it is the same guy, even though we've just taken them on this leap. So that was really scary for me, kind of. But somehow I think it worked out. Yeah.
Oh, without a doubt, it works out there, and it works out in the tail end time jump too, which we'll get to in a minute. Adam, I also wanted to ask you this question, and I ask it because I think it's something you do exceptionally well in the movie. So when we first meet Oswald, like a damn ray of light, and you're effervescent in the role. All I want to do is spend more time with you, and it borderlines feels like a perfect person to spend time with. What is the key to making him come across that way, but doing it in a grounded and believable manner? Again, which I think you do very, very well here.
Again, you sort of like try and act like a person you would want to hang out with. You go with like a clear head and a full heart, and I'm sort of doing what I would normally do in the role, but really overblowing it slightly, because you've got to make things bigger so that the camera sort of picks them up. But just come in, be witty, be funny, be charming. I think the accent does a lot of heavy lifting as well.
As do you as a performer in general. All right, I'll start to teeter towards the end of the movie here. First, I'll ask the cameo question to you, Aaron. How did Michael Shannon become the person that would fill that role?
Finally, someone actually asked that question.
Has no one asked?
Honestly,
oh
you're
my
the first
God.
one. I think
that's genuinely
I'm so
shocking to me.
He had seen my previous film, and we'd spoken, and I definitely wanted to work with him. I think he's one of our greatest actors, and I wrote the role of Oswald for Adam, and it was one of the first roles that I'd written for somebody. But I think in the back of my mind, that Michael Shannon part, I think I was thinking about him the whole time, and I was glad that he, it was very nice of him to come in and do this small part for us.
And I had no idea either. He was down on like the script as a famous actor. And then I get in the day of that film, and this guy's like, hey, Adam, come here. And this is Michael Shannon. I'm like, oh, what the hell, Aaron? Like, yeah.
Well, another thing, I didn't realize this, but I guess there was also a Marvel versus DC face-off sort of in that scene.
Didn't even think about that.
But somebody mentioned this to me. And
I haven't thought about that until now.
I was very excited. I went up to him and I was like, "Hey, and he was very overwhelmed. I think he was like, "We'll speak later. We'll speak after the scene." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm sorry."
The second he popped up in that moment, I'm like you could not have found a better person in this industry for that particular role.
Yes,
I loved it.
I think he's worked out perfectly, and I think if we hadn't gotten him, I don't know what we would have done.
Oh, I get that. The next moment I wanted to hit, Sebastian and Aaron, this can kind of be for the two of you, is figuring out the right time and the right way for Guy to finally say, "I'm Edward," even though it goes kind of unheard. Yeah. Nobody people hear him, but people don't actually let it sink in and believe.
I'm glad you're saying this, because the question I get the most is, why doesn't he reveal who he is? And my answer is that he's constantly revealing who he is, but nobody's taking him seriously. Maybe he's not pushing it, but it's also not like him to really push it. He puts it out there and nobody's responding, and it's very like Edward, I think, to just sort of go back into his, into himself and not push it. But in various ways, he says it several times.
How about for you, for the first time he says it?
Well, I think the first time that I always felt was really sincere and genuine is during the audition when he goes, I am this guy. I think he really is saying the truth, but it's also the circumstances of that moment allow him to give him the confidence to own it, because he's still behind a mask. So but again, that's why I loved the script so much, because a moment like that, for instance, for an actor, right, with everything that's going on, he's wearing a mask of his previous self, and he's telling her, and she's like, "Yeah, I get it," and he's like, "No, I'm telling you the truth." Like, it's just there's so many layers to that to unpack. So even when you go back and you watch the movie, you will pick up on things that you didn't before, because the characters are communicating in subtext in different scenes as well.
Oh, it's so true. I mean, I might have watched the whole thing and then had to go back and overanalyze every single beat of it. I do want to go to the stabbing scene. Aaron, I'll give you my first question on that. And this is hyper specific. I don't know how much you thought this through, but you capture it like somewhat in a oneer, and the way that it is in the film is the trainer's in the scene and then Guy kind of comes in with the knife. Why do it that way and not necessarily the reverse, where we're with Guy when he gets the knife and makes the decision and then goes over to him?
That's a good question. I don't know. I never thought about it. I think I always knew it was going to be this way. I think for one thing, it comes out. It's a different way of building suspense. I think you can sense that something is happening. You don't really know why we're following this physical trainer, but I guess we're seeing him in his final moments. Although it's unclear, I guess, if he dies or not. But I don't know. It's the way I thought about it. It's a good question. I never considered it any other way.
That kind of paves a way to a question for you then, Sebastian, because I think it was the right choice, because I think the shock value of the moment as you have it framed is perfect, and because we don't need to see him make the decision because you've kind of planted the scenes before. So in those moments before, what are you thinking about trying to convey in order to justify why he would take such drastic actions?
Well, I mean, it's a tricky one because you don't want to try to convey too much with it. I think it's amazing the way it's shot and it was structured, because it's without knowing, subconsciously it sort of seduces the audience to it takes their focus away and puts it in a certain situation to amplify that coming out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. But in terms of we had very specific, Aaron kind of gave me this Buster Keaton thought for actually a lot of sort of situations, but really in that kind of time when Edward, after the ceiling falls on him, it's almost he almost goes into kind of a shock in a sense, and is really numb to some extent, and you don't really know what he's thinking or what he's feeling, or you're trying to read, but there's something interesting about trying to make the choice of him having a certain kind of neutral, almost lack of emotion kind of state of mind throughout that situation.
So powerful and well done. If I don't get the rap sign, I'll squeeze in 2 more questions if I get the nod. I think I can. Adam, I'll give this one to you because I find one of the most powerful scenes in the movie is even after everything Guy has done, when he returns and they bump into each other for the first time in many years, Oswald embraces him. Like there is basically like no judgment for what he's done. He is just there for him. So what do you think, I guess, makes him such a forgiving person and willing to welcome him back into his life with open arms like that?
I think Oswald is sort of forgiving, but I also think he's a bit of a social maneuverer. I think he's always in the right place at the right time. And I think his idea is, cool, Edwards or Guy's back. Let's go give him a hug and keep him around. I think Guy is more useful to Oswald in his life than not in his life. I think Oswald's a lot more manipulative than people may be given credit for.
I can indeed see that. I was determined to end on this particular question because it was inspired by the very first interview we conducted at Fantastic Fest this year. And I just think it's a beautiful idea and well worth thinking about. The first movie that came in was The Rule of Jenny Penn. It stars Jeffrey Rush and John Lithgow. And their director explains that like these two acting titans are so great because you could just see the joy they have when they're on set doing their work. So for each of you, what single day of making a different man brought you the most joy as a creative?
Oh, wow.
Every day was, I remember being genuinely, I think we were all exhausted at the end, but I also remember being genuinely sad.
that it was over.
Yeah.
Also, but relief that we got there because we had
totally.
right.
Because like my last day was the karaoke scene.
Yeah.
And then Aaron gave this like rousing rap speech, and then I nerded out and made you sign a bunch of stuff in my trailer. It had nothing to do with A Different Man. And there was like this kind of, this is goodbye. And you were like, for now, my friend, for now. and so, yeah, and I really like that fight scene. I think that's such a good little scene.
Oh, there's so many good pieces, especially when you have your hand out. When you're like,
no, chill, everything's fine. Cool.
No.
Cool. Okay. And like, then you run at me, and it's just like, and the most ridiculous line in the film is when Oswald just goes, I didn't know my own strength.
Yeah, and also, Renate was like super fun. I mean, really is one of those actors that I think just really enjoys people, enjoys being on set and working and kind of connecting. I mean, I don't remember her ever having
not having a smile on her face, even when we were like under pressure and trying to figure things out. So she's great energy and obviously phenomenal in the film.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Team Reinsve.
How about for you? Want to take us home on this one?
Well, I do think, for as much pressure as there was to do this, we had 22 days. Everybody had an upbeat attitude, and that really was, that really saved us. I think everybody, I mean, the actors, the lead actors, but the crew as well. I think for me, the love scene is one scene where when I was watching it, I was shocked at the movie. I realized what kind of movie we were making. I think that for me, it was not a scene that had a lot of weight on the page. It just seemed like a short, quarter of a page scene, with not a lot of dialogue in it. And then when we were watching it unfold, and also it's a heavy scene between, the actors, but the way that they were just so professional and willing to go there. And then when I'm watching it unfold, I thought, okay, this is I didn't realize what we were doing or what we had, and I really felt confidence, after that.
You made a special one. I will say huge congratulations on A Different Man, and thank you for being here and sharing some of your experience making it with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To everybody out there, you have seen A Different Man if you are still here watching this, but now you have homework to do. Go tell everybody in your life to check it out in theaters as well, and check out more interviews from Fantastic Fest 2024 on the Collider Interviews YouTube channel.